morning or evening, I guess.
Yeah, good evening.
Hello
Thanks for
everyone.
putting these tables together. They clarified a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not presenting anything to do with it yet until Lee's given it a look over.
Oh, okay. Okay. No spoilers then.
Hello.
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 Tom, you're not yet on the agenda. Please, I'll send you a link and please add yourself to it.
Jordan's joining us. We'll give him a couple more minutes.
We should just turn it down and raise up the hour against it. Add to the meeting.
Okay. I think we're good to get going. I'm sure Jordan will join us at some point. Welcome to the Nullability Working Group. We're going to quickly go down the line and I'll introduce ourselves. I'm Alex. I'm here as an independent.
Hi, folks. I'm Benji from Graphile.
Martin from Apollo here.
And hi, I'm Tom, and I'm from Marks and Spencer's. M&S.
Great. Let's see. Do we have any volunteers for note taking?
I can try to
Yeah,
do.
always.
Benji does it way better than I do usually, but I'll try to catch some sentences.
Okay, great. Cool. We don't have anything specific on the agenda today. Although I'm looking for sort of status updates from the experiments, the Apollo and relay experiments. And then I think, Tom, if you're down for it, we'd love to hear what you're working on and your thoughts on things. And then we can talk about what we want to do to move forward some next steps. Cool. I don't think we have any open action items. Nope. So we're good there. Great. Yeah, Martin, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of updates since last time. It's basically the same thing. We've had a few partners trying it out, and it's always the same thing. They love it, but they want better syntax. It's always the thing that comes first. Besides that, still the same thing. I don't think we changed the catch or semantic non-null directives since last time. So this hasn't moved.
Mhm.
Doing slow progress, and yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
Has anybody uncovered any use cases that those directives don't cover?
It's hard to tell because everyone is a bit, I think, what to say, they experiment, but they also want the server side of it. Like it's really a tough sell for client-only developers because they have to modify their schemas. So most of the time, it's 1 or 2 person that are really curious about this, but it's hard to sell it to the team because they're not sure this will be like the path forward. So it's really hard to have them commit into something that might still change. You know, it's always the same thing. Like we're doing experiments, which is nice, but if you have a large code base, how much should you bet on this experiment if everything changes again? This is a bit where we are. Like the folks I've talked to are like pretty interested. They find it interesting, but hard to get more like production scale data on that topic, on that particular topic.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be hard to get people to commit until it's stable. Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, okay. So I guess, yeah, for that we would have to become stable.
Yeah, and you know the syntax is really a thing there. I think semantic non-null at semantic non-null, it's a lot of overhead, and even myself explaining it, it's quite a mouthful every time. So I think what would really move this is having some kind of easier syntax. I'm really looking forward to what Benji and Lee are working on. And probably as well some server implementation. I think we need the full stack at some point. The clients can only do so much.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for the update. Tom, do you wanna talk about your use case and your thoughts on what's been cooked up so far?
Yeah. Right. So my team, we are implementing the sort of Pomo server federated gateway in our organization. And I don't know if we're early on or just about to get into the mid stage. In a sense, we've got about, we call them domains of subgraphs. We've got about 5, 6, maybe 7 of them. But this will grow, and when we're fully on, you're talking 10, 20, maybe 30. I'm not entirely sure. They tend to just spring up out of nowhere. And so the company, Marks and Spencer's, I don't know if any of you know, is a retailer in the UK. It's quite large. We currently are on GraphQL Mesh and we're migrating the Guild's GraphQL Mesh. So we started encountering problems when it really reared its head when we talk about entities in a federated world and resolving between subgraphs and different services. And our schema is heavily not null. Probably the correct way it reflects how it is meant to be, but that meant when one service can't talk to another, even for just a small little field, a review on a product, for example, that was just bubbling and wiping out responses, which is not ideal. And sort of our favorite approach would be, in that case, to serve partial data and let the client decide, do they want to throw it away or not? But yeah, no bubbling, especially from errors. So that led us down client-controlled nullability. That's where we started off. That was the first thing we found. And I quite like that, personally. But I still quite enjoy it. I think pushing that control to the client is quite good. It gives them a lot of control, essentially. And then we got more into this, and then discovered semantic non-null. I think talking to you guys on the Discord, and yeah, I mean, piqued my interest. It seemed quite good. It seemed like something we'd like. But yeah, and now I'm here to see how it's going, what's going on, what the status of it is. So,
got it. Yeah, are you using any of the platforms that Martin and the folks at Apollo are working on? You said you're doing some Apollo stuff, or no?
yes, we use Apollo 7 TypeScript gateway. We are investigating if we want to stay on that, if we want to go Apollo router, other options. Yeah, that's what we use for the gateway. The subgraphs, I don't think they use. Well, depends on them. They're very, some of them different. We've got a Java one, we've got a TypeScript one, we've got a Python one. There's no need to. Yeah. Yeah.
So you would use nullability 100% on the back end, if I understand correctly. Like this is for service to service communication. Is that what you're saying?
But that's where we found the biggest problem with needing a semantic non-null. When you have this many services talking to each other, and the communication is not always the best. The example we had was a customer order implemented a location from a location subgraph, the entity, and they didn't communicate about what kind of ID they wanted. They both had a different concept of what a location ID was, and that was just wiping out queries and things like that. But then service to service, when you have 30 odd services, microservices running, the likelihood one goes down or there's a network issue it's relatively large, and it will happen at least occasionally, and then we don't want that null error bubbling its way up and just wiping out queries. But then
Gotcha.
it can happen internally within. I like the semantic model. I think it is a very good thing. Although I'm also not a fan of GraphQL's no bubbling at all. I'm almost a video. Why do GraphQL nulls bubble? Do I not have to specify that they bubble? Why do they bubble by default?
It's interesting. I think I don't know if it changes anything, but the primary use case we've been mostly talking about is front end clients. So service to service stuff is kind of interesting.
And this is all to support our front end clients. So sort of like the use case is you don't want entire product pages wiped out because you couldn't get the reviews, a non-critical bit of data, and then handing that control over what is a non-critical bit of data to the client, because in a federated world, no one subgraph is really ever going to own a page or a thing, and really they can't decide what is a critical bit of data and what isn't. That control back to the client is sort of exactly what I want.
But when you say client, it's like the front end, right?
Front end,
Or
yes,
the,
front end.
okay.
Yeah, that's so
Be-
the website, mobile app.
Because there are two sides of nullability. Like we have at semantic non-null, which is mostly a backend thing, a schema thing actually, where that prevents the null bubbling. And then we've been discussing with Relay about this at catch directive. I don't know if you've read about this one.
Yes, I think one of the Relay guys sent over a PowerPoint they have on it. In that catch, you can
Which is
define.
where you want to actually handle the error on the
Yeah.
on the front end. And catch feels like it's really more on the front end, but what you're really interested is more like semantic non-null to avoid this null bubbling and wiping out of fields. Gotcha.
Semantic non-null makes our schema safer, and it makes more sense from a logical point without making the entire schema nullable, which was one, or making our initial solution just to ourselves was, okay, everywhere we have an entity, it's a service, a network connection, we have to make it nullable in your schemas, just so that then you're not wiping them out based off that possibility. But then we start, the schema stops reflecting what it really is, and then that's a whole rabbit hole to, is it a well-defined schema anymore? Should we really be allowing that through? And then the trade-off, it could save us money. What a good schema could save us money. So just end up in circles. And everyone has their own opinion about which way.
Is null bubbling blowing up responses happening enough that, like, if you were to go back to the beginning and do it again, you would make your fields nullable, or what do you think?
No, it's not that prevalent.
Okay.
It's just when it's used, it's annoying.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because people go either way. They either I think especially the Apollo folks said they saw more people making everything non-null, and then some other depending on other people just make everything nullable. It's so there's kind of two use cases there.
I think we're 90% non-null. There's like Netflix, I get the impression they're 100% nullable. Well, that's what they tend to talk about in their talks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how all the different people approach nullability. GraphQL was obviously designed to be nullable by default, but I was quite surprised when Lee said when he moved to Watershed that they were doing non-nullable by default pretty much. And so that's why when we were talking about client-controlled nullability, most people were interested in the exclamation mark operator in a way of being able to say, I don't want to have to handle these nulls in my client code. I don't want to have to do all these null checks. But what Lee was actually interested in at the time was the question mark operator, which is more like, I'm okay with this being null, actually. Please don't blow everything else up. And this all does ultimately come down to this issue of null bubbling. And we've talked about null bubbling quite a lot over the last couple of years. One of the other big issues with the null bubbling is it means that it's unsafe to write the results of your operations to the normalized store, because it might be that other things have changed, but you can't see that information. It's been blown up and taken away. So yeah, it's a really interesting issue, and the semantic non-null helps us out a bit here in that it allows people that have written nullable by default schemas to add slightly more type safety to that, to add like a partial non-null to it. But it doesn't help people who have always traditionally had non-nullable schemas, like the Watershed style, because for them, going to a semantic non-null is actually a breaking change, because you're saying, actually, you can now have a null in this position, which wasn't the case before. So going from nullable to semantic non-null is safe, but from non-nullable to semantic non-null is not safe. So I just wanted to mention, I know some of you have seen this in the chat. Lee and I met up for a voice chat, I think it was last week sometime, and we had I think 80-minute phone call where we talked through nullability from basically the beginning. What are the aims? What have we tried? What are the problems? What are the solutions? Why don't we like the solutions? And generally, we were both of the opinion, we've got two of the semantic nullability and semantic non-null are our two proposals, and they are broadly very, very similar. They differ in syntax and in some other subtleties. But neither of us like either of the solution. And it really felt like, going into that phone call, it felt like we're going to try and choose which is the least bad. But what actually happened is, by discussing everything again in detail and going over everything we've already hashed out again, what I think we've managed to do is revisit some of the fundamental assumptions that we've made, and actually challenge some of those. And so hopefully next month, once we finish like writing it up and making it presentable, and Lee's had a chance to look over it, we will hopefully be proposing something that isn't entirely new. It's things that we've had from all of the discussions that we've previously had over the last 2 years, but it's just been assembled in a new way, in a different way, and hopefully in a way that doesn't cause the issues that either mine or Lee's individual solutions caused. And also, hopefully, it means that for schemas that are written in the non-nullable style, there may be the option to move to something more along the terms of semantic non-null in a non-breaking way, which is interesting. So I'm hoping that this is going to lead somewhere interesting. But what I will say is, from what I've thought about it so far, and I've written up a document, but I've not written up any spec edits or anything like that for it yet. But I think that a large portion of what I previously wrote in the semantic non-null type pull request will still broadly be applicable. So hopefully what you've been experimenting with is still along the right lines. But now we've got something a bit subtle that should make it easier for everyone, I hope.
Nice.
So I guess to summarize, the thing blocking us from pushing either the two competing solutions forward is not like community support or people having enough time. It's that neither of the solutions are satisfactory.
That certainly, yeah. I wasn't a fan of Lee's proposal, but I'm also not overly keen on my own proposal. So yeah, I think that's generally the case. And I think you can see that in the community as well. Like there's people that are very keen on Lee's one because the syntax is nice and like the question mark and exclamation point are obvious. But there's also the people who are very aware of just what the amount of effort to move towards that solution will be, because it is one where you have to make quite a significant step to adopt. And whereas my proposal is easier, not this one I just discussed, but the previous one, is easier to adopt. Like you can just pick it up, it's non-breaking, but nobody likes the syntax. And to be honest, I don't like the syntax either. It's a weird syntax. And it's so strange to be caught up on something as almost trivial as the syntax, but like actually syntax is really important, right? It leads to how intuitive the software feels. And if it's a weird syntax, it's not ideal. So yeah, I think neither of them are quite right, but they're close. And so hopefully by mixing together everything again, this new solution won't be too surprising. It is a little bit surprising. It does revisit some very fundamental things. So yeah, that'll be fun to explain next month.
Got it. Okay, cool. So next steps are to have Lee look over that, and you two can hash out like the details, and then maybe it's something that we can yeah, we can bring it to the next nullability working group, and then if everybody's happy there, then we can bring it to the main working group.
Yeah, seems reasonable. If it's a slam dunk, it might be that we want a couple of sessions to discuss it and iterate it before we take it to the main working group. But yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Would the aim to make a proposal or a talk at GraphQL Conf be a good target for this? Like it's coming soon, right? September.
Oh gosh, yeah, the CFP closes, I think, end of next month. So
oh wow. All right.
I better get Lee to have a look at it soon.
Nice.
We didn't actually really come up with the solution on the phone call. We came up with the seed of the solution and a few interesting ideas. And then I've sort of basically expanded on that and turned it into the beginnings of a proposal. So I want to revisit Lee and make sure that that is the kind of stuff that he had in mind. And there are some questionable things that I've added after our discussion that I want his input on as well.
Did y'all organize are you doing a panel at the conference?
None of the agenda is like known yet. So I mean there will be panel discussions. I think we might have a TSC panel, for example, possibly with some of the ex-TSC members. Yeah, don't really know yet. Mostly waiting for the CFPs to be submitted. Are you interested in doing a panel on nullability?
Oh, me? I think someone mentioned it in the Discord. Someone said they wanted to do it. I don't remember who it was.
Well, I think it would be interesting. So we could certainly propose that someone could raise it as a CFP.
Okay. Yeah, that could be good. Trying to find out who it was. I'm not going to find it right now.
You definitely
right.
want Jordan on that panel.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it from me.
All right. Cool. Good talk. Yeah. Let us know when you've got something for us to review or something. What I've seen looks pretty good. I'm excited about it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Look
Bye.
forward to seeing you.
You.